Okay, wow. So glad to have you all here. I'm Joyce Jenkins, as Harold just told you, editor and director of Poetry Flash, an online review. And welcome to the Poetry Flash reading series. We are absolutely delighted tonight to present Rosa Lane, reading from her brand new collection, Calling Back, and Camille Norton. Here from Stockton, right?
Yes.
A Folio for the Dark is her most recent book. They are both amazing poets. You are going to enjoy this, and it's a great pleasure to have them both back in our series. We have copies for purchase here after the reading, and copies are also available at bookshop.org/shop/poetryflash, where a small portion of your online purchase will benefit Poetry Flash. Video of this event and all of our events are posted on the Poetry Flash YouTube channel. To join our email event list and get notices about all these goodies, see poetryflash.org, or to reduce digital frustration, sign up here on our analog clipboard. Check out poetryflash.org for reviews and future events. There's a new wave of content that will appear very soon. We are finally reaching the end of this year, 2025. As always, we are deeply grateful for your support, any support you might be moved to offer. I'm not too proud to say that we really do appreciate and need your help right now to get over this last part of this year that's been like a track race. To visit our donation page, go to poetryflash.org/give. Thanks to Art House Gallery, impresario Harold Adler, and support Art House. And thanks to Stephen Bunza and Rosalinda Monroy for their help tonight. Now our first poet up is Camille Norton. And as you probably already know, her recent collection of poems is A Folio for the Dark. Julia Levine says, Camille Norton creates a deep and lush interior world where she is both reader and writer, young girl and sensual adult, herself and the other. In these poems, which are as mysterious, brutal, and beautiful as truth, Norton writes her way into the lives of those she has read. Poe, Thomas Jefferson, Gertrude Stein, a Confederate prisoner, Herman Melville's Whale, and the Old Testament's Jonah. Out of this empathetic imagination, there emerges an alchemical voice of the multiple worlds that inhabit Norton's dynamic mind. Her first book, Corruption, was a National Poetry Series winner, and she's a frequent collaborator with visual artists and composers, and is a newly minted Professor Emerita at the University of the Pacific. And we just can't tell you how thrilled we are that you came from Stockton to read. So, Camille Norton, please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, Joyce. It's great to be here. This is an amazing space. I've been here once before, and I just could not believe it when I walked in. Stockton's not that far away, guys. You know, people always talk about it like it's the hinterland. It's only an hour and 10 minutes east over the Altamont there. Anyway, it's great to be here, and I'm going to read mostly new work tonight. I'm going to read one poem from my first book, one poem from my second book, and then read some new work, and some of it's not even completely finished. So, but I just I feel like doing that. And I'm going to watch the time carefully. I have 30 minutes. So I'm going to start with something old from Corruption, a book that meditated a lot on art and spirituality, the relationship between the Catholic Church and painting. And like many of you, I've just been thinking about our incredible country, and what we're going through every day is just such a blow that, anyway, I felt like reading this to remind me that actually history is also terrible, but can also save us. So this is a poem about Napoleon and Dante's body, and I just want to say that Dante's body was buried by these Franciscans, and they forgot where they put it. So Napoleon was looking for the body because he wanted everything in Italy, and the Franciscan priest moved the body in the night and hid it, and then they forgot where they had put it. So that is the background here, but of course I'm thinking about our Mr. Trump here and Napoleon's boots and Dante's body. Am I too close to the mic?
No.
Okay. Dante slept for a long time in the 19th century, thanks to Napoleon, a little man in tall boots with a genius like a corporation's genius for acquiring other corporations. Little Napoleon marched into Italy. Little Napoleon consumed the church as if it were the antiposty, and there's nothing like antiquity to make you hungry for the treasures of a tomb. Ah, what a tomb was Italy. Etruscan, Roman, Aryan, Byzantine, medieval, Quattrocento, neoclassical, Rococo, all beautifully elided like the layers of pastry in a papal cannoli. This is so good, I must eat the whole thing, said Napoleon. That is how law works, to bring appetite and things together. Napoleonic law or natural law or the law of the father, depending on the body of law you study at school. But back to Dante, dying in exile in Ravenna in 1321, buried at the Chiesa di San Francesco, dug up in 1519, smuggled out through a hole in the wall by faithful Franciscans in the struggle with Florence, that faithless mother, hidden a while in the windy plains near Ferrara, then shut up at last in a wooden box in 1677 by Padre Antonio Santi. So many hells of sanctuary had Dante. He was as hunted as a saint. Would they never stop? It was quiet again all through the 18th century. But then, Napoleon, a little man in tall boots, an Araviste of the worst kind, the kind that wants it all. Your dead, your living, your perversions, your convictions, your paintings, your poets, your prelates and pretty girls, wanted Dante's body too, and would have had it if not for the faithful Franciscans scuffling in the night, digging a pit in the soil of Braccio Forte, a pit of such excellent hermetic silence that even they forgot where they had put it. So it was that they had lost his body, and so it was that Dante got free, and Dante slept for half a century, his lost body traversing the underground source of the lyric phrase of the wind as it traveled across him in the tall grasses of Braccio Forte. So maybe this will all just pass. We'll see. So the next poem I'm going to write also has to do with a historical character. The poem is called Quaker Light, and it is written about the first prisoner at the Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up. And This was a Quaker penitentiary, and there was a belief that all prisoners should be in solitary confinement in their own cell, and they could go out into this very small yard and face a wall for air. And the idea was that you would, in prison, be able to really think about your soul and come to terms with yourself. So the first prisoner was, of course, a black man. And so this is about him. And I of course, this is my fantasy about him. He did, in fact, steal these. He was imprisoned for stealing a gold key and a gold watch and a gold seal. And so I tried to imagine that he wanted to be a gentleman and he wanted to have access to these things that gold could bring, and he wanted to read. So, okay, Quaker Light. There's an Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, 1829. He was light-skinned, black, 18, and literate, a farmer by trade, a burglar by accident, the first man incarcerated in the new penitentiary. He had stolen out of what craving for beauty, one $20 watch, one $3 gold seal, and one gold key to an imaginary door's promise of riches, an armchair stitched in silk, a gentleman's library, a leather pouch spilling with tobacco, and the leisure to sit reading all night of Lafayette's and Gulliver's Travels. He dreamed of the door to the burnished books, a solitude of pages feathering his fingers, and for such transgressions, real and imagined, he was renamed prisoner number 1, formerly black-eyed Charles Williams of Philadelphia, a boy unlike Poor Richard in Franklin's Almanac, for he was dark and scarred on the nose and thigh, a freeman all his days until the days of this prison. Now he must not whistle or tap on the wall, for fear of the iron gag that pulled at the tongue. When he cried out for books, they brought him the Bible, his only company for 2 years of confinement, in which he saw nothing but his own hands and feet and the light of the Lord streaming down. And what light, neither outer nor inner, neither the light of summer nor the light of winter, always ashy and smoky or yellow as a stain. Quaker light, light of the mind divided. O Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house, and the place where thy honor dwelleth. What had Poor Richard said about the matter? A child and a fool imagine 20 shillings and 20 years can never be spent. He must become a penitent, he saw that. He must empty himself into the silence, then empty silence of its echo. One day on the prison wall, he saw a narrative moving in lines across the stone. His own story, if only he could tell it. He copied it carefully on his shirt. With ink he came by cannily, trading for it with his body, sometimes with the promise of more, such as his soul or the captor's kiss, for such is desire, reader, such is desire. And so he wrote, and so he dreamed of a beautiful man, restive and sorrowing, reading alone in his Philadelphia library, a gentleman, a brother, a master, a lover, whom he might take ghostly by the hand, and to whom he might whisper, reader, read me. I'm going to read something that I don't think is really finished. And I just wanted to read it because I found it this morning, and I thought, well, this is kind of how I've been feeling lately. I just stopped teaching after 31 years, and this is called To My Students. I lived a long time in the 20th century, so long that I remember the memories of my grandmother, who was born in the 19th century, when the milk was delivered before dawn by a man and his horse. the man's name lost to me, but not the city, Wilmington, Delaware, and not the streets cobbled in granite, so that you could hear him coming as you rose to light the coal fire, to heat the kettle, to warm the milk for the baby who would not live. The poems I learned at school gave off a scent of must and foreignness, mostly Tennyson and Matthew Arnold, men whose diction trained me to become melancholy about the sea and about the Crimean War and the horses dying on their knees with their riders in a mountain pass far from England. In high school, we advanced to the 20th century, read Wilfred Owen, fell in love with the doomed young men of 1914 and those who outlived them, like T.S. Eliot, whose edginess attracted me all the way until I was 20-something in the 1970s, which was still the 20th century, with so much to come, such as policemen on horseback raising the batons over the skulls of black men in Philadelphia, and Rodney King beaten by policemen in LA, and more horses in the Olympics, carrying the equestrians into rings, and poetry by Adrienne Rich, Nikki Giovanni, and Audre Lorde. The beginning of Milk and Blood, a whole new poetry beginning here. Everything toppling on its side in 1984, not as Orwell predicted, but close enough. Ronald Reagan on horseback, and credit cards, ATM machines, answering machines. We were living inside the simulacra, we said to one another. It was the era of AIDS. We took solace in our 30s at memorial services for men who died in their 40s, and for something to do as cities burned and prisons bloomed across farmlands and shuttered factories. We took refuge in Buddhism and or the practice of deconstruction in close readings of the infinitely unstable texts of literature and film. This just at the cusp of the World Wide Web and our expansive interconnectivity with one another's suffering. And then it came, the 21st century, when you were born, to this system we have of two-part identity verification on platforms on which I now depend to teach you the simplest of lessons, such as what is a quatrain and who is the speaker in this poem, and above all, how does the poem make you feel? Do you trust that feeling to be truth? And how do you feel truth, students? And how do you imagine yourselves at the end of the 21st century, when you will have dreamed your dreams and attained the habit of wisdom? Okay, shifting a little bit here, and I write a lot about animals and insects, and I write a lot about books that I read. So it's, you'll get a little bit of all that. All right, so this is a poem about a piece of art that was made by somebody who was developmentally delayed, who works at a place in San Francisco, and it was on the wall of my friend E.G.'s house, and I just fell in love with this creature that was like no creature I had ever seen. So this is called An Incomplete Animal. Dear slow-eyed, enchanted animal of the dinosaur age, of the reindeer age, of the age of the horse in my mind. I love the black flags of your ears, your 4 magical shoes that trot in different colors, your long orange neck, the fine smudge of your snout, your aquiline nobility, your queerness, your neurodiversity, your lack of proportion or even species, and the way I instantly know you to be safe and warm, not so much like a dog as like the soul of a dog. There is such a soul in me, intact after how many years? The soul I speak of is wholly of one cloth, neither old nor new, neither pure nor impure. It floats above and below us and on all sides of the incomplete animal that is my body, and that is your body too, dear slow-eyed one. Come closer, you who are drawn on the wall by a child. Let us press our souls together and become complete. Oh, you don't need to clap. Thank you. This poem is the only poem I ever wrote on an airplane on my iPhone, on the notes, and it came out of watching a film about drought in Africa and the way that elephants would walk miles and miles and miles to find a mud hole that they could remember, and that deep underneath that mud hole were little frogs who were living in the aquifer. And I was just amazed by the intelligence of these creatures living in the African savanna, these little frogs that went underground when it got really dry to live in the aquifer. I live in Stockton, which is a very hot place. I also used to be a swimmer and hope to be one again. And anyways, thinking about the bullfrogs, and this is called Dreams of the Aquifer. Male bullfrogs have immense goiters that balloon out and in when the weather is fine, repeatedly out and in. Their croak songs distinguish them from the female bullfrogs who revel in the quiet of rainy season. After a long dusting in the Valley of Bones, El Nino drives in with cold liquid tears and knuckles of hail that melt into cool pools. The eyes of the bullfrogs blink repeatedly. When you look at them closely, you can see the thin sheet of membrane nictitating above the orbs of their eyes, which are bronze or golden. The bullfrogs are dreaming of the aquifer, the way we should dream of the aquifer. Only we don't, because we long ago stopped being amphibians. These winters in California, when I swim in the rain, I remember my emerald green legs and my monstrous face behind the goggles. I kick out from the wall and keep kicking. I dream of the aquifer's brocaded sky of sediment, its underground caves, sinuous curves, enchanted pockets. I dream of the aquifer most in summer, when the grass crisps in the heat, when wildfires race along the coastal and inland ranges, and trees ignite into pillars of ash, and the hot wind blows thick with polymers, asbestos and formaldehyde, to our burning houses. In my other life, the aquifer is a source of all things aquatic: bullfrogs, salamanders, those with and without gills, and the human swimmers who can hold their breath and swim the long course in the mother of all springs. The houseflies. The houseflies are dying more quickly now. They no longer live with me an entire summer, or even half. This is how I know that transience escalates. I used to name them, make space for them, as I wrote in my book of sentences. The flies became tame in the silence until their iridescence lured me away from the words on the page into the mosaic of their 5 eyes. And when they died, I was sorry. That's how lonely I was. Who was this I who was lonely? I can hardly say. Lonely as dirt, a common condition. Tread softly in the dust, Christian. Tread softly, dust. Come, little book. We are a small nocturnal creature, slipping like a comma into the everlasting gap. My insects. My insect friends, I actually became very attached to certain flies when I was writing some summers, and when they died, it was really a shock. So, this is a poem about a snake, reptilian. Here in the garden, the apse of her eye opens to engulf me. Her eye is green tourmaline, refracting into black stone before dilating again at the sight of me, a chromatic, heat-bearing animal. She is cool-blooded, svelte and slate, with 2 ribbons of yellow on her flanks. She's small as the necklace I wore in my dream last night. I kissed a woman in that dream, full on the mouth. Poems should not say too much too soon, somebody said. But who? Here in the garden it is morning. The apse of her eye opens just as the apse of my eye opens. Inside is sanctuary, 7 radiating chapels, the choir and the nave. She arrests me, freezes me, as I suppose I freeze her. When will the sun strike its bolt into the scene? When will the blood beat again in my heart? Who will be the first to move into the mystery? I'm going to read something for Catherine, who will understand when I read this. This is from my mom, The Radiant. And I have a very dear friend here that I saw the Perseid showers with for the first time in my life, and they're in this poem, The Radiant. I walk into a field of stars and think about your death, or I walk into the field of your death. Which is it? I walk into the field. You are radiant. It is the time of the Perseids. August splits in 2. Before was summer. After is now. Take my hand, Mother. Death has not yet come for either of us. I am old, and you are older. We stand in the wake of light, of color, as they pass through us. How beautiful we are. Okay, I'm going to read one last poem. It is completely different in tone. It is, I hope witty, but some of the figures that make an appearance here are a scholar of Greek, a very famous one, Gilbert Murray, an English scholar who Virginia Woolf was very much in awe of and intimidated by. Another person who appears here is Virginia Woolf herself, the first woman she took a Greek course with at home. I want to say Virginia Woolf never got to go to school, and it was something she really minded that fact, that she never got to go to school. There are some true things. I really do have this book. I did find this book on my shelf. I find a lot of things on my shelf that I don't know I have, including a first edition Washington Irving's The Alhambra. I found. It's just like sitting there in my office. I don't even know where I got it. Probably in my 20s somewhere for $1.50. I don't know. Anyway, this is called A Nemesis. And forgive me for being, this is about school and never feeling really quite educated enough, I guess. In my search for a nemesis, I found a history of ancient Greek literature by Gilbert Murray, a 1933 edition published by the Appleton Dollar Library, with half its paper jacket still affixed, front and back, it's in green leaves with brown edges. There it has always been on my study shelf, intending to be read by me before I die. Nemesis is an obligation fulfilled, says Robert Graves. You bow to it and pay your tribute in gold filigree and pencil shavings. In the case of Virginia Woolf, her nemesis was classical Greek, which she studied at home with Janet Case, who had never been allowed to matriculate, as she was a woman. Janet Case had certainly locked eyes with the great Gilbert Murray as he strode by her on the stone pathways of Oxford. Did she incline her head ever so slightly, as if to say, I have read you, sir, and I agree with your theory of the tragic arc? I think she must have, because it seems to me that Gilbert Murray was her nemesis, and he was inexorably there, waiting to be seen. In this book that I own, the book with the green paper jacket published in 1933 during the Great Depression, someone has scored the margins with pencil marks and in some cases underlined phrases such as eros, page 120, love is prominent, and the dithyramb was a goat song. And there, on page 57, my predecessor has drawn a line through this sentence: the gods have all left us except Eidos and Nemesis. I do not invent this. In fact, I have not lied once in this poem. The French flaps of the book are torn and legible, and inside the book I find a postcard addressed to Professor Harold G. Nielsen, Chairman, Department of English, Sweetbriar College, Virginia. It is postmarked November 28th, 5:30 p.m., 1960. Here is what it says. Dear Harry, I hope you burn in hell for what you put me through, as first your student, then your wife. I have left you for a woman who is also a handsome boy. She teaches history in Ithaca and loves my poems. Thank you.
Well, that was spectacular. Thank you so much. Thank you. Camille Norton. Yes. So next we have, I'm very excited to announce Rosa Lane. And she's been traveling all across the country celebrating her brand new book called Back, which won the 2025 Maine Literary Book Award. And you grew up in Maine, of course, which you write about beautifully. A sequence of poems in queer conversation with Emily Dickinson. Henri Cole says, what marvelous, feral, eccentric, sweetly erotic poems. Like a candle in a frosted window, they illuminate with electrifying language the shadows of human love. Her previous books include Georgia Poetry Prize winner Chouteau's Chalk, Tiller North, 2017 National Indie Excellence Award winner, and Roots and Reckonings, a chapbook. Her work was named Best of Poetry for the 2024 Geminga Prize, awarded the 2023 Morton Marcus Memorial Poetry Prize. I don't know if you remember Morton Marcus. He was an amazing literary figure, especially beloved and celebrated in Santa Cruz, and but a California original, and selected as finalist for the 2023 Gregory O'Donoghue International Poetry Competition in Ireland. And we just couldn't be more pleased to have her with us tonight. Rosa Lane, please welcome her.
My life is like an oar, dragging a whole ocean behind it. In the morning wake of waves, I hem my eye along the seam of sky and water. I want the thin line fastened to my waist. I want to jump overboard, swim where the gull can wrap its wings around me and peck from my skull all that is extra. I wrote that poem 50 years ago, but this next one I wrote before I was born. I think you'll see what I mean. Electricity buzzes the yellow bulb in Maine's humid heat. June bugs bomb the porch light with spiny legs, deep-colored and oversized. Spring peepers pin the night, pitch a universe in my mother's kitchen, except I have not yet occurred to her. She is 16, and I'll be hers in less than a year. Supper's on the table for the boy who'll be my father. His 19-year-old body big and husky. He rinses dried splashes of work from the day's ocean in a small blue basin, enameled and filled with hand-pumped water drawn from the well. Fireflies light the field aflame. Conceived in the heat of summer, I appear a small spark of night, planted in the deep crevice between them. Thank you so much for coming. There's decades of friendship in this room for me, who grew me up. And I certainly wouldn't be standing here talking about or reading poems in queer conversation with Emily Dickinson if it hadn't been for Judy Grahn, who is in the audience tonight. And thank you, Judy, for all of your work and the work to come, which I have hints about. And because of the work you have done, I'm able to stand here. And so thank you so much for that. And I will be reading from Cloudbank, but first I want to say, Joyce, you're incredible. I mean, the literary community that you pull together, and the hub, not just here in Berkeley, but all of the state of California, if not across the country. When I visited Detroit, Joyce was front and center there, and then I find out Detroit is Joyce's hometown, and people are very taken with you there and want you back. But we got you, you stay here. So I'll be reading from Cloudbank. Cloudbank, the last two words that Emily Dickinson wrote. The book is in queer conversation with Emily Dickinson. Most scholars now agree that Susan Huntington Gilbert was the core love of Emily. Emily wrote more than 250 letters to Susan during her lifetime. They met sometime in the late teens, and the letters that Emily wrote to Susan reveal a romantic and erotic passion that lasted until Emily's death on May 15th, 1886. And whether as a front marriage or for financial security or for whatever reason, Susan married Emily's brother, Austin, it was on July 1st, 1856. But that was under the condition that there would be no sex and no children in that marriage, to which Austin agreed. But soon that broke down. I mean, within 5 years, there were, children being born, and Susan and Austin had 3 children. This got very complicated at the time. Austin and Susan lived only a hedge away. They were next door in a house called the Evergreens, and Emily and her family lived in the homestead. Callback gives voice to Emily, who was the icon of whom has been constructed as queerless, her work muted, suppressed, and including erasure of her early poems. So Callback is giving back her voice. Callback is appropriate title for that. So I'll begin by reading the poem French Sardines. You'll hear a French city, Nantes, Nantes, which is located at the mouth of the Loire River in France, and was known for the sardine industry. You'll also hear Maggie, who was a domestic servant of the Dickinsons, who was also Emily's confidant. And I'll read, because epigraphs from Dickinson's work evoked these poems, I'll read the title of my poem, then I will also read the epigraph from Dickinson. Sometimes there's two epigraphs, and then I'll repeat the title so you'll know where my poem begins. French sardines. Wild nights, were I with thee. Wild nights should be our luxury. Dickinson, number 249. French sardines. French sardines arrive from Boston, tin-plated. Maggie levers her can cutter at the edge, jacks her hand around the lid of hunger's fulcrum. Silver-skinned and nested, their caudal fins swim a sea of marinade, white salt cured, drenched in extra virgin. Beheaded and gutted by the women of Nantes, we lay each body across a soda cracker I have for days dreamed of. Craving, nights, behind each pearly eye, we swim up the fishware. We spawn in sandy silt along the odic thighs of the Loire. We flutter our little deaths. I was asked while being on this tour, what do you mean by our little deaths? And I went, does le petit mort mean anything to you? Clothesline. I saw the wind within her. I knew it blew for me. Dickinson, number 1502. Clothesline. Our nightclothes whip the line, clipped side by side, swell and billow frantic for embodiment. Cold winds advantage our absence, inflate, take up habitation throughout the day, makeshift pro tempore. Can you see our vacancies weave and twist our arms, flailing? Our nightclothes crawl the afternoon, elongate shadows. We slither the barnyard's first frost, crust last summer's grass, peeking green escape. See how we play dead, emptiness, slat dry huffs hung back into our Sumerian closet replete. Amputate my freckled bosom, make me bearded like a man. Those two Dickinson lines occur in Dickinson's poem number 1737. And I've only ever heard one scholar speak to those two lines, and that's Maria Popova in her work Figuring that came out in 2019. Pierre de Cork converses with these two lines. These demands occur in the first 4 lines of a 20-line poem. Pierre de Cork is a 16th century phrase that refers to breasts, or a corset that's drawn again from the 16th century. The word wan, you'll hear also, is a pale in color. Pierre de Cork. Amputate my freckled bosom, make me bearded like a man. Dickinson, number 1737. Pierre de Cork. A pair of bodies hangs from my chest, sistered and whaleboned in a cuff. I want nothing of them. Still tethered and corseted, these oddments, small thimbles, two berries made for the mouth, speak a primal language not mine. A wolf's ravish, or the infant's pucker for milk, a utensil gorged and sucked. Those fleshy hills are there for swallowing. Wan, two drifts of snow, windblown, renounced, raised by slice or tear, my bust blanked, my sternum flanked by ribs basil flat like paired susurras. Phantom nipples hover endless pause. My hairless chin densed and wild, my mouth squared. I am my beard, edged along the jaw, tinted curls, free fall, repronouned, plumed, and prow. In the next poem, Othered I Speak, I refer to the word meerschaum, which is a carved smoking pipe from the 19th century, as well as latakia, which is a sweet tobacco. And the word verboten means forbidden by an authority. You'll hear in the epigraph the code word for men, divers. Emily did speak in code. Several code words were used for Susan, for example, Pearl, Eden, Vesuvius, the mountain, the volcano that erupted in Pompeii, among many other words like heaven and so forth. There are many code words for Susan that Emily used. And divers she used for men because they could dive for the pearl. Othered I speak. Her breast is fit for pearls, but I was not a diver. Her brow is fit for thrones, but I have not a crest. Dickinson, number 84. Othered I speak. I am wrong to start with, to have. To strop and hone the blade, shave without a tuft. To bind, bone wrap my breasts, they will not leave. To swag my trousers and waistcoat in a dark no one sees. To ramrod the barrel, guncock, lean a corner, the house dead ends. To hike sails, captain my ship, doldrum drifting, nowhere windless. To bypass the lungs, drop my voice to the diaphragm, timbre gravitas. To smoke my meerschaum, virile and fragrant, blending latakia, smoke rings in solo. I curve the flesh of Adam's apple verboten, pith the larynx, my mouth plosive, hushed. Dear Sir, number 7. And they no more remember me, nor ever turn to tell me why. Oh, Master, this is misery. Dickinson, number 462. Love's stricken wise, all that love can speak. Dickinson, number 1368. Dear Sir, letter number 7. Tell me, sir, why I wake with a bird in my mouth, why my heart seeks a nest in a sparrow's beak when I worship want on the tip of her wing, why when I visit Eden I want Eve, not Adam, why I long for doors that cannot open, why I plant myself in situ, move about light yet cannot lift my feet, why I live more myth than element, why I fold myself in a letter delivered elsewhere, my address unopened, still lying on the table, why my finger inserts the loop of a hot teacup, its curved lip sips, kisses a future not yet, why the moon comes to my window full-bellied, stares, why when I reach for her she empties, turns sickle, leaves me in shreds. The love between Emily and Susan was complicated. Susan had humble beginnings, and when she married Austin, who was an attorney in town and kind of the upper echelons of society, she was welcoming of that social standing and worked toward that, which got complicated for Emily. For Emily, that was kind of boring. The love was painfully unrequited, off and on, as I understand it. This next poem, Last Fall, tells a little bit about that story. 'Tis true, they shut me out in the cold. Dickinson, number 538. Last fall. I smell fence like a fox. Our common meadow, outbound, more feudal now. I travel my bed, dream of our love, you cordon cold. The hound tethered to my side, I spoon his hunt, yipping prey, headboard to foot. Death stops, smells the fence, divines and crosses the hyssop. Now my compass, the fever's bearing, waste in agony. Tonight sunset bleeds a mottled rash. My walls rust, rotted roams. Tinctured, I deign harvest nothing. Where you vanish, so I die, unborn. Dear Sir, letter number 3. After Emily Dickinson's As Summer into Autumn Slips. Dear Sir, last of the Canada geese forms and frets, spearheads south. Their honking yodels curdle and break Amherst's blue hour. The north has come to get us early. Crows lout, aggravate their thievery, pecking harvest remains. Maggie pushes the hen onto the spit for supper. Boils summer's epilogue, the cook stoves crack and pop. Bessie's feathers clotted beside the fresh stump. Her spirit feet still puffed, hacked at the hock joint. Strut her sacrifice into another world I succumb to eat. Today I recover from the attic my black cape, its urgency hooked, keen-eyed. I know the wind grows near lunacy for the loose. My bulbs will freeze, dream life below zero. I comfort before the fire, chasten my future, and sir, despite slow depletion of winter's stash, I promise to minister a brave hunger. No matter survival or death, for you I foment spring's earliest blood red bloom. I'll read 2 more. Is that okay? Emily was obsessed with death, which inspired my next poem, Limning Death. Limning not only means to give light to, but also in art to draw an outline around a subject. You'll also hear the phrase an impalement artist associated with a spinning human target, usually called a target girl, on a circular board that's spinning at the mercy of a knife thrower in a circus stunt referred to as the Wheel of Death. Limning Death. I felt a funeral in my brain. Dickinson, number 280. She dealt her pretty words like blades. Dickinson, number 479. Limning Death. Immortalities strut around this homestead as if they own everything. Their ceremonials stop at the mantle forevering. Father's daguerreotypes seal our faces, brass matted, muted, red velvet softens a haze of black bleeding in. My little room, more shadow than light, spins on the wheel of death. I am an impalement artist, one knife toss away from the thrower's mistake. I disappear in tiny mouthfuls each day. I study any sign of being taken, my room stunned by mourning. I am still here. Yesterday I died again, swept myself into a dustpan, rattled the windows like a beggar's cup. I yearn for the perennial garden, yet I have no gender. Just the moon waxing her wont at the bluff. And the last poem I'll read is Transistus, When the Blue Mist Rises. Emily died on May 15th, 1886 at the age of 55. She had been ill for 2.5 years and bedridden for 7 months of those years prior to her passing. She died of hypertension, which may have been complicated by her Bright's disease, a disease of the kidneys. We do not die of Bright's disease today. Emily left instructions to be done upon her death to Susan. Susan was to wash her body. Her coffin was to be carried by the 6 Irishmen who worked on the grounds of the homestead. Vinnie, her young sister, you'll hear her name mentioned in the poem. The 6 Irishmen were to carry her coffin through the back door of the homestead, circling first her flower garden, and then back and forth twice through the open barn before heading across a field of buttercups to lay her to rest at the cemetery next to her father. It's interesting to me about going twice through the barn. Makes me think, what kind of story does the barn have that to tell? You'll hear the word nyctinasty, which is the phenomenon of flowers closing their petals at night. I should also say that Emily didn't number her poems. Scholars have numbered them based on a chronology of analyzing her handwriting because she had eyesight issues and got, as her eyesight worsened, her handwriting got worse and worse. So the numbering system which is used, and there are 2 numbering systems at least, Franklin and Johnson each numbered them differently and analyzed her handwriting differently, but they go from 1 up to 789 poems she wrote. She also wrote 1,304 letters. For a recluse, that's an awful lot of communication. Transitus, when the blue mist rises. You cannot fold a flood and put it in a drawer. Dickinson, number 530. Transitus, when the blue mist rises. I hover. Only my body inhabits space. A deserted village you trespass. You bathe my streets, snuff gas lamps yellowing the common. You close my lids, clip cowlicks, understories overgrowing the banks of Fort River. I lean into the field's narrow neck. You unwrap the bandage, kiss the wound rosed by yet another May. I smell coming. You turn your back as if you could ignore the river ascending its limbic rim, rushing past my bureau, my bed already carried down rapids. Our secret, purpling hyacinths in a vase of regret. I descend the stairs in a box balanced on the shoulders of 6 Irishmen. Vinnie's violets dress my throat, the back door open to my garden. I lie in the parlor, 2 heliotropes in hand, bloodstones earthy green, flecked with jasper, its bright red reminder, before redemption, Before nictinastic close, wounds lay bare in even fall's last light. Thank you so much. Thank you.